Good evening, everyone. This is Astroscoop. Hello, this is Jeff, and this is my live stream episode number 11. So 11 episodes already, almost lucky number 12. It's 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for those of you that watch this for the replay, I do a live stream each Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube, and this channel is at Astroscoop 3801. And also, I might change that as well. But also follow me on Twitter, which is now X, and my handle on there, I'm on X a lot, is Astro_Scoop. So just Astro, not dash, Astro_Scoop. You can find me on there, follow me on there, and I do all sorts of tweets about the planets. I do daily moon tweets, celebrity profiles, all sorts of things, and of course links to my videos and live streams. And then on Instagram, I am Astroscoop7. So it's just Astroscoop, like this word, Astroscoop7 on Instagram. So Instagram, Twitter, or X, and of course YouTube, where I'm here every week doing videos, and now of course doing live streams. I apologize about this this shadow here. Trying to work on my lighting, and I think I overdid it a little bit in the studio here, but I wanted to try some different lighting and see if that works or not. So we have another packed hour of things to talk about. We are continue to be in Pisces. It's March 9th, 2024. So here on the East Coast, we have 10 days. That's it. 10 days until late at night on the 19th, we enter spring. And then on the 20th will be the first full day of spring, also known as the first full day of Aries. So we will end the zodiac with Pisces, and then we'll begin the zodiac all over again with Aries. So that will be a beautiful thing, and that should inject a lot of energy into all the signs, and I'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about Aries and the fascinating world and fast world of Aries people, and etc. So we are in, as I mentioned, we're in Pisces. We're in the Pisces 3 period. Right now we're in Pisces 2, but we're coming up on Pisces 3, which is March 11th to the 18th. And the previous weeks, you can check out my other live streams, which are mainly about Pisces for the last 2 weeks. We covered the first true Pisces period. Last week, I talked about the middle of the road Pisces. And then this week, we're going to talk about March 11th to the 18th Pisces people, which runs right up until the Pisces Aries cusp. So Pisces 3 period people are born next week, and they're ruled by Neptune, which of course rules Pisces, and the co-ruler for the decan is Pluto. So the colorations of Pluto, which is a Scorpio, rules Scorpio, of course, does a lot of interesting things to that week of Pisces 3. And of course, when I break down all the decanates, there are specific traits, and there's also specific fixed stars that coincide with the decans, with the degrees on that week, on that 7 to 10 day period. But of course, there's general traits that the sign for the entire 30-day period usually embody. And Pisces people tend to have similar traits. But as we get closer to the cusps, those traits get colored by other influences. And one thing I probably haven't mentioned yet about Pisces is Pisces people, probably more than any other sign, is the most impressionable to other signs in their chart. So Pisces picks up on the vibrations within their own chart. So if you've had your natal chart or birth chart done, you'll know you have multiple placements throughout your zodiac wheel. And Pisces takes on other colorations in that chart very strongly. Not because Pisces is necessarily a weak sign, it's just because Pisces is easily impressed upon. So just like Pisces can pick up the vibrations of people in a room physically, they can also pick up their own vibrations of the different energies in their natal chart for astrology. And that's why astrology is so layered. I talk about this, each week, how layered astrology is, like peeling away the layers of an onion. But of course, when I'm going through the decanates, I am concentrating on the sun sign, which is the main force in your chart, the main focal point in your chart, which is the sun sign. But of course, there's a lot more there. And we'll get to deeper things later as the year goes on. We'll get deeper into possibly maybe doing a step-by-step beginner's astrology sort of course, or just step-by-step the basics, getting the basics down to getting to the point where you can read a natal chart or a birth chart. So for any of you that see this in the future, please comment and let me know what your level of astrology is. Are you beginner, intermediate, expert to master? And what kind of videos and topics you'd like me to discuss in the future live streams. Because ultimately, I know usually I only have 1 or 2 or 3 people so far, and I've gotten some private feedback from people, which I appreciate that. Continue. If you don't want to do it in the live chat, you can send me, privately, or you could direct message me on X or Twitter as well, and no one would see that, and I don't share that with anybody. So if you want to comment or something privately and you don't want to do it on YouTube live, where of course this replay will be up there probably forever. So that's another thing. But as we get more people, I'd like to know, like as a group, if we get 5 or 10 people, what people want to learn, because I have varying different techniques as far as being an astrologer and what I could teach you and what I've been taught, different levels and different techniques, and whether it's more logical or whether it's more intuitive. Some people are one or the other, and some people blend it. So depending on what kind of astrology uh, aficionado you are, or astrology student, we could try to figure those techniques out, and so I could help you learn and make it fun. Make it fun. I I always believe that astrology should be fun. There's a lot of astrology on social media that's so heavy, and I do heavy stuff. I do. That's why I call it deep dive astrology coaching. I do a lot of deep dive stuff. I can go heavy. I can go deep, but there's so much astrology on the web that I think goes over most people's heads. And I'm trying not to do that here in my live streams. I'm trying not to go over your heads, trying to talk to kind of the average audience that's probably into astrology, not super beginner and not master or expert. But a lot of astrology is really heavy on social media and often fails to deliver user-friendly information that people can take away from the video immediately and use, or figure out if you want to figure out the signs of your loved ones, your family, your friends, or someone you're dating, so that you can use that in your life and you can gain some knowledge, not to use it against people or not to manipulate people, but to just have more awareness with yourself. If you're more aware of yourself and you're aware of those traits of these signs that I talk about every week, imagine how much better your relationships and friendships can be when you have the awareness. And if there's traits about certain people that annoy you, turn you off, rub you the wrong way, but you might know that, and you might see it coming. So that's what astrology can do. So that's kind of my point about Pisces, is it really absorbs everything in the chart. So let's get to the Pisces 3 period. It's March 11th to the 18th, the Pluto decan, as I mentioned. This is the strongest decade, in my opinion. It's one of the strongest periods in the year, I think, in the astrological calendar, for a few reasons. One is this is the very last period, 10-day period of a sign in the entire zodiac. So we'll talk about in a couple of weeks when we start Aries. That's the very first week, very first period of the zodiac. And now imagine we've gone through every single week, every 30 all 30 degrees of each sign, every week, every month, every season, to this very last period of Pisces 3, before we go to the Pisces Aries cusp, and then we jump into Aries. So this is prominent. So if you equate it to an age, this is someone in a very advanced age, possibly 80s or 90s, or even 100. This is a person that has lived through, symbologically, thank you, symbologically, is somebody that has lived all the signs and are coming to, if you're born in this decan, this is pretty important, because it's very, very strong. And it's a very strong Pisces energy, because it's not at the very beginning of Pisces, it's getting towards the end, and it's got the colorations of Pluto. So it's a strong decan. I equate it to like a whale. So the sign of the symbol for Pisces is the fishes, or fish, swimming in opposite directions. But Pisces people are not necessarily weak. This is something in superficial astrology, in columns in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that Pisces got coined as this weak-willed, wimpy sign. I don't know how else to say it, like a wimpy sign. Any sign can be afflicted in the chart with certain aspects or certain placements, but Sun in Pisces is not naturally strong in terms of ego strength. It's not naturally strong, but it has strengths that other signs don't have. And this particular decan, I equate to a whale, because they are strong fishes. And if you think about fish in the sea, they come in all different flavors and varieties and sizes. But if you consider sharks, dolphins, whales, if you consider up the food chain, for sea creatures, you got a lot of intelligence there, with sonar and their own sort of intuition, amazing hearing, all those things that they use in the sea. And then just the raw power of a whale or a shark. So if that's a fish in your book, there's the little baby fish that get eaten by all the other fish, goldfish and stuff, and then there's them. So I think this week would be a whale, big fish and big emotions. So I've known a few people born this week in person, and I've followed a lot of celebrities that are born that are late Pisces. These are the types of Pisces that sometimes don't seem like a Pisces. And what I mean by that is they can be louder, they can possibly be more aggressive, they could be more bombastic, and a little more certain. They can just be things that Pisces normally isn't. Now, that can also be attributed to other things in the natal chart, such as house placements and aspects. But getting closer to the Aries Pisces cusp, this Pisces period is kind of like almost bursting at the seams, with Pisces energy coming up towards the late winter into spring, at least in this hemisphere. So that's a very important symbol, I think, for being a whale and a fish, and the strong emotions with Pluto, the Pluto and the Neptune together. So Pluto and Neptune together creates a very strong dreamer. All Pisces are dreamers to some extent, but this week they're very, very strong dreamers. And when I was researching celebrities, which we'll get to later, for this week, I couldn't believe how many guitarists, you know, physical guitar and specifically bassists. So for you musicians out there, I don't know why there's so many this week that are just, I didn't see that many singers or drummers or composers, but I saw guitarists and a lot of bassists. So I'm wondering about the frequency of playing those instruments and the technique of playing those instruments and how it might relate to this Pluto decadent, the Pluto Neptune combination of playing strings, right? But the strings on a guitar, or or plumbing the four strings on a bass guitar. So that's kind of interesting. I'll have to do some more research in that. But there's so many. So many dreamers. But the interesting thing about Pisces born this week with the Pluto influence is they can be very practically oriented. So their dreams and their endeavors, their enterprises can be creative, but they can also have a practical side that is developed with the Pluto influence. Now, if Pisces born this week were raised by, incredibly practical parents, like, raised by uh, a Capricorn parent or a Virgo parent or a highly organized, you know, uh, home system, this Pisces might not be as much of a dreamer. They might have squashed that part of them a little bit, and more of the practical bent can come out. So we have to remember in astrology too, with the polarity, like I mentioned, Virgo and Pisces are opposite. With the polarity in astrology, each sign is similar but different, but they can almost take on traits of the other. They can tap into the other. And Pisces can do that probably very easily, probably more so than Virgo. So Pisces, with the right people around them, can be a practical dreamer. This particular decadent, more so than the others, can be a very practical dreamer. And so they could be creative, practical dreamer, and they can also be an escapist with their creativity. They all will also feel like the Pluto drives their creativity more intense than the other periods of Pisces, than a Pisces, let's say, that's March 1st, or a Pisces Aquarius cusp. So with the Pluto pushing their creativity, they will often become escapist with it. So I would imagine Pisces people born this week might make good dancers, magicians, anything in that realm, and anything behind the scenes, of course, too. Even scientists in a lab, anything where they can be powerfully creative, but also escapist and maybe kind of hide behind the scenes, that sort of thing. So the combination of Pluto and Neptune can create an overreaching temperament. So Pisces people are highly emotional and sensitive, like we talked about. For the most part, all Pisces periods are like that. And this period can be overreaching with the Pluto. So if you think of Scorpio and Pisces as the fellow water signs, they're trying each other. And then they can have a natural affinity for a friendship, or a natural affinity for using each other's energy easily, feeding off each other's energy easily because of the trine. So the Pluto fuels, I think the Pluto decan for any water sign fuels that particular creativity of the water sign. So it can be overreaching. They can kind of reach for the stars. This constellation is Pegasus. So that's one symbol, is Pegasus for this constellation. And there's stars there, and obviously, and it can be overreaching. So I talked about in the other decanates, I know I feel like I'm a broken record, about Pisces and being careful about addiction to drugs and alcohol, and anything that's negative. Anything that provides an escape from the harsh realities of life or the boring practical realities of everyday life. Which, let's face it, right? Mundane everyday life gets a little boring. It gets old. Um, but for Pisces, it's really hard for them to not want to escape. So Pisces people born this week, obviously take that with consideration. Be careful of overindulgence in food and drink and alcohol. And that goes along with the Pegasus constellation. So in tarot, it's the 10 of Cups and 10 of Cups, yeah. And that is more sort of more creative work, the Cups. And 10 is kind of a solid, strong number. So that kind of goes along with the Pluto too. So you got the Pluto and the 10. So there's a lot of strength for Pisces born in this week. And that's why I think, generally speaking, Pisces people born this week can come across as stronger than your general Pisces. Some Pisces people can be very quiet and very docile and kind of weak-willed. And that's where that Pisces stereotype, comes into play, especially in a more old-fashioned way. Back in the turn of the century, maybe times, how Hollywood movies portrayed women in a certain way and then portrayed men, which is, totally unfair and unbalanced, obviously, kind of outdated. But, things like that, whereas like a glamorous feminine, quiet, docile energy is kind of like Pisces. So I think obviously that has changed with modern society. But the 10 of Cups there, that represents this decadent. So this the sun right now in the zodiac is 19 going on 20 degrees, which is a beta Phoenix star, which is, I read one article that said resurrect, and that's the Phoenix, and that's Pluto. So it all ties in. So that's why there's all this hidden strength here in Pisces born this week, more than any other week of Pisces, but also within any other week of the year, possibly with the Scorpio cusp periods when they have the other sign strengths along with Scorpio, like Scorpio Sag or Libra Scorpio. But it's pretty amazing how deep, when you look, how deep the sun sign is, how much influence there is for the 20-degree Pisces there. Resurrect. So Pisces people here can be hit with some trauma and suffering, but they can bounce back very strongly. And they can be more, like I said, they can be more assertive and stronger than maybe your average Pisces would be, in advocating for themselves and maybe their talents or creativity. So in the zodiac right now, in the cosmic sky, it's the new moon in Pisces. So happy new moon in Pisces. The new moon is a major moon phase. After the first quarter, the moon goes to a quarter, which we just had. That was the moon in Sag. Pisces and Sag are square. So when there's a quarter moon phase, the zodiac signs are square. So we went from a quarter moon phase square. Then we go 4 more signs. We go Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Sun in Pisces, Moon in Pisces conjunct together. So conjunction is the same sign and grouping. And then coming up after this new moon, we'll go to the next quarter. We'll go to Gemini moon. So in a few days, when it's the Gemini moon, you'll have another quarter of Pisces and Gemini. And then after that, we'll culminate, and the moon phases mountain will culminate in the full moon, and that'll be Pisces moon in Virgo. I'm sorry, was that, or will that be, wait a minute, do we have a full moon? I lost track there. No, I think it'll be Aries, the Libra full moon, because Aries and Libra are opposite. But anyways, that's how the new moon fits into that the moon phase cycles. So new moon in Pisces, sun and moon in Pisces this weekend. And it's the only time of the year where the sun and moon are both in Pisces. And that is very fuzzy. I know I'm feeling kind of tired and out of it. Had a busy week. But any people that have Pisces in your chart, you're going to be feeling a little woozy, maybe a little naturally woozy from that. But it's definitely a good time to get quiet and to find out where Pisces lies in your natal or birth chart. It's really important to just flow. Pisces has to flow. Every sign probably in the zodiac, every sign is that much more rigid than Pisces. Pisces is like, I'm sure you've met a Pisces that you could consider a rigid person, and that could be for a variety of reasons, or it could be something else in their chart. But the Pisces energy, the flow of Pisces, there's nothing rigid about it. It's formless. It's just the river, the stream. So it's wonderful to end the zodiac here with the new moon in Pisces. And it's a good time for meditation, music, art, definitely more of the relaxation, less striving, less addiction to perfection, or trying to do things right, or trying to impress people. It's more so your inner world. So this week is kind of like doing your hobbies and interests for your inner world, even if you're not Pisces. That's really what it's a good time for. But in addition to the new moon, we have, look at this. This is unbelievable. We have a power-packed stellium in Pisces. Now, a stellium is usually 3 planets in the sky that are conjoined. But here we have Mercury in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, which is a long transit, the sun, which I mentioned, Saturn, and the moon. We have 5 planets, 2 outer planets and 3 personal planets, all conjunct in Pisces for a stellium. Now it's kind of a long stellium because Mercury is at 29 degrees of Pisces, which means it's almost in Aries. So that is a critical degree, and that's very soon going to change the thinking, the collective thinking. It's going to get much more direct and more active with Aries. But imagine that, Mercury, Neptune, Sun, Saturn, Moon. So very, very powerful time for all Pisces people, as I've been talking about, but also for Pisces planets. So for any, especially the Sun, Moon, Mars, Pisces, Pisces rising, even Pisces on the 10th house, which is the midheaven, that would be the work in public. This is just an amazing time for creativity for Pisces. And it's also going to affect all the mutable signs, which are Sagittarius, Virgo, and Gemini. And most likely it will affect Virgo a lot more than the other 2 signs because Virgo is the opposite of Pisces. So it can activate the polarity with the Virgo planets as well. But mostly the stellium power packed with Pisces. So that is pretty amazing. Looks like we have, let's see, welcome. I think we have 3 people, so that's good. One of these days we'll get 10. We'll celebrate 10 like that's like 100,000 people. It'll be at some point. But someone left me a message. If you see this, someone commented on some website for me to check out for helps with views. So that was helpful. I appreciate that. And I guess it all depends on, growing your channel depends on a lot of different things. And I never expect, I'm not one of those people that I never expect that I'm going to have 100,000 subscribers one day, because I'm not going to be married to this, if you will. I think, let's be real. If you want to be that big on YouTube, I think you have to have no life and do this 6-7 days a week with literally no life and be married to it. So that I'm not willing to do. I have a life, and I have a lot going on in my life, and this is kind of like a sideline thing for me, but I do still want to grow it. I care about it. I care about this channel a lot, and I do want to grow. Um, so, I want to get to 500 subscribers, hopefully by the beginning of this summer. I want to get to 500. That doesn't sound like much. Um, and then hopefully by the end of the year, maybe we'll close in on 1,000, maybe, or several hundred. So, slow but steady, we'll get there. All right, so back to the transits. So we have over here. Sorry, we have the no major fire in the zodiac right now. So what does that mean? Well, the fire signs are usually spark in action to the zodiac. So there could be a little bit of a lull right now for people. And I think this is especially true for if you're in the United States or you're in Canada and you're going through the winter. If you're in another part of the world and it's not winter, or it doesn't feel like winter, the Pisces might have a different vibe. That would be interesting. If you live somewhere that's 80 degrees and it's Pisces, I don't know, because obviously where I live, you associate. Today was 40 degrees, but the wind chill was probably about 30, and it was raining and raw and nasty, and just yucky. So, and then the other day was gorgeous, and it was like 60 degrees, and it felt like spring. It felt like May. So that's the changeability of Pisces. Absolutely. So no major fire means there's a lack of spark right now. It's totally going to change in 2 weeks. Mercury's going to go into Aries, and then of course the sun, the cosmic sun, is going to ingress into Aries. So that's going to change all the landscape. We'll still have some of the outer Aquarius planets and Taurus planets, but we're all these Pisces planets, at least the personal ones, are eventually going to go into Aries very soon, and then we'll have more of a balance between the elements. So no major fire, except for, I did want to mention again, I know I mentioned this a few weeks ago, Aries people, or Aries planets, 17 Aries, the node, which is the nodes of fate, and most astrologers believe that has to do with destiny, your destiny in this life, but also possibly in a past life, and how you reconcile your destiny and some of those lessons that you have to learn. For example, a baby born right now, if a baby's born tonight, if you know someone that's pregnant and she's going to give birth, let's say in the next week or so, but especially today, maybe this weekend, tonight or tomorrow or Monday, he or she would have their node at 70 degrees of Aries. So what would that mean? Well, generally speaking, the north node would indicate that baby, if you believe this, the baby chose to come into this lifetime to learn assertiveness, to learn to be more like an Aries, to be more honest and direct and independent. Independent is a huge word that you're going to hear me talk about when we get to Aries. Aries people can be very independent. And so a baby coming into this life with the node, that might be a lesson, especially for a Pisces baby coming in with a node in Aries. That's going to be a major focal lesson. But it could also indicate that in a past life, the baby was the baby had their node in Libra. So the baby was very Libran and maybe too dependent on others, or too obsessed with relationships, or too indecisive, or just too much of the Libra function or Venus function. So it's like less of the Libra and coming into this life to have Aries. But any planets that are at 17 of Aries are anywhere around 17, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, you're getting a conjunction from the node and Chiron. So that can bring up emotional wounds or triggers that could just come up all of a sudden, especially for Aries planets. And Aries planets can burn hot and can get mad easily or can get frustrated easily. But you most likely won't hold on to it. It's not something that's going to damage you per se, just something that comes up that you might remember from your childhood or a previous friendship or just something that comes up and you're like, ooh, that kind of touched a nerve. And it could be a stranger that triggers it in you. So that's Chiron or Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries, along with the node. So Aries people, Aries planets, hang in there. Your time is coming, and your time for healing is coming as well. So now let's see, it's 8:05. Okay, looks like we got a few people in here. Let's see. Just want to put it out there. If you have a comment or question, please feel free to ask. Because eventually that'll be a good thing to kind of get some engagement going and get a conversation going. It's hard to talk for an hour by myself, and I don't know how some YouTube creators talk for 2-3 hours. Usually they have one or two other people, but still, I don't know how they do that. That's tricky. But let's get to the famous folks for Pisces. So each week, if you've noticed, if you've watched my live stream before, each week I'm taking famous celebrities that are born under the sign that I'm covering right now in my videos. But it's not just any week, it's usually this particular period, because I just spent time talking about the decan and the nuances of the sign specific to this week and how it fits into the zodiac wheel. And I love to look at celebrities, because celebrities that are the same sign, if you look at a March 1st celebrity person, and then you look at some of these people, which could be the 11th, 12th, 13th, or even up to the 18th, they will often have similar Pisces qualities, but you can see in their art that they use it differently, slightly differently. And of course, there's reasons for that in the birth chart, like the moon sign, rising sign. But that Pisces usually shines through in the creative arts. It always shows itself, especially. And if once you get a really good natural working of astrology, and I don't mean just intellectually, although that's wonderful. If you're an intellectual astrologer or you're a mathematician astrologer, that's great. There's a very good place for that. And we need people like that. But I mean more of like a good working knowledge of astrology with other techniques than just your mind or just logic. It's amazing, because you'll watch an actor or actress in a movie or a TV series. You'll listen, all of a sudden you'll listen to a singer or a songwriter, playing the piano or the guitar and singing their song, or you'll see a painting, or you'll read a novel, because you'll know that person's chart and you know their sign, and you'll hear it and feel it differently. You'll read that novel differently. You'll see the painting differently. You'll listen to the song differently. That singer, you'll get the vibe of that singer. You can really tune in. You can tune into other things. And if you're watching that actor or actress in a movie or series, you're gonna say, well, I always noticed that this person is dramatic or powerful or sensitive, whatever kind of roles they play. And of course, they're acting. If they're a really good actor, they can act like what they're not really like. They can pretend. If they can be assertive on screen, and they could be super shy in life, or they could be really bossy in real life and be, weak and a victim on the screen, like in a horror movie or something. But these people are cool, because Pisces threes, remember I talked about the power, sensitive and yes, vulnerable, but also powerful. Glenn Close. Now I know she's older, so I don't know if millennials or Gen Z is going to know Glenn Close. Probably not. But Glenn Close, what an amazing actress from the Greenwich, Connecticut area. Did a lot of theater work in Connecticut and New York growing up. And of course, went on to do big movies. She's probably up there with Meryl Streep, I would say. Maybe not quite to the level of Meryl Streep in most people's opinions, but she's an A-level, top actress. And I mentioned her because she's born this week, and she was in the movie Fatal Attraction. So most people have heard of that from, I believe it's 1987, Fatal Attraction. And I've seen that movie many times. And boy, that's a doozy. That's a doozy of a movie. And I think if you watch it now in 2024, which I haven't, but if you watch it now, I know it would, a lot of the commentary and messages in the movie would feel maybe inappropriate or politically incorrect or dated. But, and that probably is true. But there's a lot of messages in that movie. There's a lot of Piscean messages, Fatal Attraction. There's a lot of Piscean messages of overreaching and losing touch with reality because of your emotional state and being attached to someone or being attracted to someone. And that can be a very amazing thing for Pisces, but it can also be a very scary thing for Pisces planets, is how attached and how Pisces can lose themselves in another person. A cause, an idea, or specifically a person in that case. But she plays, what was her name? Oh my goodness. Does anyone remember her name? It's like a man's name. I'm blanking. I can't remember her name, Fatal Attraction, but amazing role and very intense. Again, she plays that vulnerable but powerful. So next is Bruce Willis. And poor Bruce, I've been reading that he's got some kind of throat and speaking disorder, and also neurological problems. So poor Bruce, he's probably at the end of his life, the end of his life. But Bruce has done a good, I think he's an underrated actor. If you take away the action films like Die Hard that he's done, I like it when he does more either comedic or dramatic. But my favorite is Sixth Sense from 1999. Amazing movie. And it's got some plot holes in it. It's a little, wonky in places. But if you just let yourself watch the movie, there's a twist in it. Again, I don't know if younger generations would know about that movie or would be interested in it. But 1999 is a really good horror, thriller, mystery, supernatural. It's got it all. It's got all that in it. And he's a Pisces, obviously, and he plays it so well. He's so quiet and nuanced, but also kind of angry and emotional. And he's powerful in his own way. His character's powerful and kind of pissed off and stuff. So it's edgy. It's it's a really good. Bruce Willis does that really well. The next is one of the best Pisces songwriters, probably almost anyone would agree, is James Taylor. He's had a lot of turmoil in his personal life, turbulent relationships, substance addiction, been in and out of rehab, kind of a typical Pisces journey, unfortunately, for a Pisces musician. But he's coming to the East Coast. I think this summer he's coming to tour, and he's getting up there in age. So that's great. God bless him. He's doing really well. Amazing songwriter. You Got a Friend. Total Pisces. Spike Lee, amazing director. Directed some of those politically incorrect, kind of acerbic, edgy movies, always having to do with politics, racism, always racism, but mostly humanity and how we treat each other, not just race, not just the gender differences or ethnic differences, but just human to human, how we treat each other. That's Spike Lee, and that's all Pisces. Pisces. The discovery of Uranus, I guess, was during this week of Pisces, so that's interesting. Uranus is Aquarius, but it was apparently discovered in a Pisces period. Cheryl Lynn, very powerful singer, R&B singer from the 70s and 80s, and she said, "Got to be real," and her voice is very powerful. Liza Minnelli, kind of a kooky, eccentric, creative, but also powerful in her own way and her own presence with her craft. And of course, being the daughter of Judy Garland, that couldn't have been easy. And poor Judy. So, I mean, there's a lot of generational issues and trauma probably in that family. So, and she chose to be a Pisces. I wonder what her node is in. And then Fred Berry, a lesser known famous actor, who played Rerun on the 70s sitcom What's Happening. So I know I watched that with my older sister. I must have been watching that when I was, I don't know, even before middle school, probably. I was watching that, or middle school, somewhere around there. Reruns. I was watching reruns of Rerun. So Fred Berry, he was great. And he used to do this funny, like dancing and kind of almost like what's hip hop today. Very, very smooth and creative. He's fun to watch. So Adam Clayton, in my opinion, one of the best bassists. Again, I mentioned at the beginning how many guitarists and bassists there are in groups that are born this week. I got to do more research on that, or I got to try to interview. If you know someone that's born this week that plays guitar or bass, contact me. I'll interview them for free. I would love to know what attracted them and what it is about this week about being a Pisces. But Adam Clayton is one of the best bassists, I believe, in rock. And he's in the supergroup U2 from Ireland. U2 is a worldwide phenomenal supergroup that continues to tour, and they have their Sphere residency thing in Vegas right now. So he's really cool. David Draymond, people that are into goth rock or heavy metal would know this name, David Draymond. Most probably people in their 30s or 40s, I would guess, those generation. He's a singer from a group called Disturbed, and he's has this industrial gothic, very operatic, powerful rock singer. He reminds me of a whale. Look up his face, David Draymond. Guy from New York, I think, that grew up in New York. And happy birthday! He just turned. He's turning 50. But the music is a little hard to listen to at times. But I once listened to an album of theirs about 20 years ago, and I was amazed by the operatic, almost like Freddie Mercury from Queen, but more industrial and more gritty. How he can do kind of like these sounds. It almost reminds me like a whale or something, like a whale or a shark. It's not a fish. There's a sensitivity in it, but it's powerful. So he's very much a whale. And we also have Thomas Ian Griffith, born this week. I love him. He is the villain, Terry Silver, on the series Cobra Kai. So Cobra Kai, which is on Netflix right now, and they're on hiatus. Season 6 coming back. And yes, I'm a bit old. I'm a bit old to be liking Cobra Kai, but you know what? If liking Cobra Kai is wrong, I don't want to be right, or however that goes. But yeah, I love Thomas Ian Griffith. He's from the original Cobra Kai movie. He was the villainous Terry Silver, the Cobra Kai sensei who manipulates Daniel, played by Daniel LaRusso, Scorpio, and he's great in the series. He's awesome, and he's very sneaky. And I mentioned that about Martin Kove. Remember, I mentioned Martin Kove, who plays John Kreese in the series, who was, I believe, born last week. So both of them born within 10 days of each other, both playing Pisces villains in the Cobra Kai movies and now the Cobra Kai series. So that can't be an accident. Oh, and Hawk, Jacob Bertrand, who plays Hawk. He's turning, I believe, 24. He's also a Pisces, and he shares the birthday with Martin Kove, I believe. So lots of Pisces actors on Cobra Kai. I'm wondering if these casting agents, are you using astrology? Like, come on, you gotta know some secrets here. I need to know. There's got to be some secrets there. We know millionaires use astrology, right? But who really uses astrology? Billionaires. Billionaires use astrology, and Ronald Reagan. So he's great. Michael Martin Murphey is a country pop folk singer from the 70s. He had a beautiful song called Wildfire. It's a cool 70s song you hear on 70s radio all the time. And he's got really good, it's a sweet song, but it's also sad. It's melancholy. Talks about a wildfire who's a horse. And, you can guess what happens. But it's one of my wife's favorite songs of all time is Wildfire. She loves it, but she's also like, turn it off. It's too sad. And my wife is a water sign. Sly Stone, he's amazing. And he's from Sly and the Family Stone, who helped to carve out that whole blues, rock, funk, R&B thing that he did after James Brown kind of went to him, and then the Earth, Wind and Fire. And he's made amazing Pisces, and he's had a lot of troubles in his life. And he's very much an eccentric from what I've read in his personal life. I think he's even been homeless. I think he was homeless and then he wasn't, and then he was homeless again. I'm not sure, but he's a very, very unique character, and he's helped to carve out classic. Martin Fry from ABC, whose birthday is today. I believe Martin Fry's birthday is today. ABC from England. He just talked about in his reel on Instagram how he was influenced by Sly Stone. So Martin Fry, Pisces, influenced a lot by Sly Stone, who's another Pisces, and he said he was influenced more by Sly Stone than he was from the Stones, Joni Mitchell, or the Beatles. So, and Martin Fry is an amazing, amazing guy. So if anybody sees this, tell Martin Fry he's amazing. And he's still touring with his own version of ABC, a new form version. Dee Snider, the wild, crazy frontman from Twisted Sister. I saw Twisted Sister when I was probably too young, but I saw them in concert. It was crazy. But he's, you know, he's playing a character. Again, that's another whale. It's another whale kind of Pisces, not a quiet little fish. It's kind of a whale Pisces kind of guy from New York. Steve Lillywhite, I saw him talk. I saw him talk at a festival, music festival a couple of years ago. He's an amazing producer, British producer that's worked on all sorts of landmark albums like XTC and U2 and all these new wave and rock and pop groups from the late 70s and early to mid 80s. And he was involved in a lot of those huge top 10 and top 20 albums, and amazing Pisces. And he said, when I saw him talk, the guy interviewing him was the drummer from Talking Heads, Chris, I can't remember his name, but the drummer from Talking Heads was interviewing him live. And he said, how do you feel? You can't, and he said, I've come the farthest that any other musician has this month in touring. He said, I came from a village in like Zambia, like, I don't know where it was, but he was like, there was the farthest like vacation place you could come from. And he came all the way to the East Coast for a tour. So he said, how do you feel? He's like, he said, I'm a Pisces. How do you think I feel? I'm always freaking tired. He said, I'm always tired. Now I'm just old and tired. But, you know, Pisces can be kind of sleepy. And next is Nancy Wilson from Heart. Now, the Heart sisters, the rock group Heart, are amazing. It's Anne and Nancy Wilson. And the main sister, Anne, she's the real kind of strong, you know, intense kind of mama bear voice that you hear in most of the Heart songs. But Nancy's also there, and she also provided a wonderful counterplay to her sister's kind of airy, stormy kind of way of singing, and Nancy did a lot of the guitar work, especially a lot of the early Heart stuff. Really, and Nancy's awesome. And then we have Kurt Russell, who's a great actor. You know, not as high as like probably not as high as like a Bruce Willis, but still very, very good. He's played a lot of roles where he is a victim. He can be kind of comedic. He can do action, but he's good at being a victim and kind of playing off of that. Something happens to him or his family. There was a movie called Breakdown that was really good. I think it was in the 90s, where his car breaks down and his family gets terrorized. You know, very, very good. Pisces plays that really well. Mike Lindup is a musician from a group Level 42, and the other member, Boone Gould. There's two Pisces people in the group Level 42 that, and their music's amazing from the late 70s and 80s. And they have 2 Pisces people. The epic Billy Corgan, I think most generations are going to know about him. Um, maybe except for the silent generation or baby boomers. But all the younger generations know Billy Corgan is the lead singer, reunited for Smashing Pumpkins. And his music is dark, right? He did an album called Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Melancholy, but he spelled it Mellon and then Collie. I mean, and he did all that, and he did all that because he said he's a Pisces, and the music, Smashing Pumpkins music, is powerful. It's edgy. It's a little sad. It's dark. It's very Pisces. Caroline Core, she's part of a sibling group called The Cores. It's a pop rock Irish group from Ireland, and she's really, really good. She provides really sweet melodies and sweet singing. And there's a thread here. Again, what I was saying before, if you know, once you get to know and work all the astrology, the next time you read that article or novel, the next time you see that painting, the next time you hear that song or that person sing it or play that guitar or bass, and the next time you see that person act, you will see it in a different way. It'll click. It'll click. I've even asked other astrologers that I've had in the room. I'll watch a scene with them. If they don't know, I'll say, what astrology energies do you see this person, even though they're acting? And they'll get them. They'll say, oh, I see Aries. I could see it. Even they might be playing an Aries part, and they could be tapping into an Aries planet, or they're playing an Aries part and they're just more of a chameleon, like a Pisces. But it's amazing. So Caroline Core, really good Irish singer and instrumentalist. Melvin Gentry, he's one of the founders of a R&B group called Midnight Star from the 80s, and they're a really cool R&B electronic group. They did a lot of futuristic electronic group type styles with synthesizers and keyboards, and he was very instrumental in, I think, the more eccentric and creative parts of their group when they came off being just a flat out R&B group from the late 70s into the 80s. And the group was this group was co-founded with 2 other brothers who are Aquarians. So the Midnight Star group had a strong Aquarius influence with the Calloway brothers, and then Melvin Gentry, who's Pisces this week. He infused a lot of emotion too. There's a lot of good, really good feelings in Midnight Star. And one thing they said was no parking on the dance floor. They didn't allow that. There's no parking. If you're on the dance floor, you know what you need to do. But we're just about wrapping it up. I'm just going to look at the transits here. Let's see. I'm just looking at the zodiac wheel. I know you can't see it, but you can always look. You can go on to astrotheme.com or astrocharts, astroseek. You can go on to any of those popular sites and you'll see the transits, and you can even look at them in real time if you want to do that right now with me. As I mentioned on my board here, the 90-degree sun, which is almost 20, and that just passed the 14-degree moon, which was just the new moon. So the moon will be in Aries in a couple days as we go to the next quarter phase, which will be Gemini. And then, of course, Neptune, Mercury, and Saturn. I mean, holy cow. So how are people, here's a question. If you have a Pisces planet, if you know that you have a Pisces planet, even if you're not a sun in Pisces, how have you been feeling the last month or so, or even 2 months? Have you been feeling sleepy? Have you been feeling more creative? Your juices are flowing. Are you feeling energized from the conjunctions? It's very, very amazing that we had all that Capricorn, all that Aquarius, and we still have the Venus and Mars in Aquarius. Venus is getting late, So Venus is also going to join that and enter Pisces soon. So love is going to go from getting a little more detached and zany to a little more, a little more intimate. The Mars in Aquarius still. And Pluto has now finally hit 1 degree of Aquarius. So we are at the 0 mark of Pluto, and Pluto is now at 1. But Pluto is still going to be a Capricorn Aquarius cusp planet for a long, long time. So it's still going to hold on to a little residue of that previous Pluto in Capricorn that you might hear all the other astrologers that I've talked about. I talked about the node in Chiron and Aries, and then Jupiter and Uranus. They don't move very fast. They're going to be in Taurus for a long time. We'll be talking about that for months on end here. Look at that. I mentioned that in early January. Here we are in the middle of March almost, and it doesn't move that much. And Pluto is a snail. Pluto is a snail. And then that's about it. There's part of fortune, which some astrologers agree on. Part of fortune is in Libra. Right now it's in the 1st house. So there's a strong harmonious Libra energy that's near the 1st house of the cosmic sky right now. So a baby born right now would have that. So that's nice. I think that's kind of sweet. When Libra's positive and secure, Libra can be very sweet and very very balanced. Libra is always a good counterbalance to other signs. And then Libra rising, Cancer. Not much going on with Cancer and Scorpio, the fellow water signs. And like I mentioned, the fire signs, nothing with Leo, nothing major with Sagittarius. And then even with nothing major with Virgo, and nothing major with Capricorn. So those are the transits. Let's see. All right, what else did I want to cover? Was there anything else? Let's see. Oh, I did want to mention, I really didn't get to it in this live stream. I was hoping to, is we could talk briefly about it, is I just did a video from this morning. Check it out. It's Pisces compatibility. And this is kind of a new series that I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start talking more about compatibility in the videos, because I don't want to just rehash the same old stuff about each sun sign or about the sun sign period with the planets like I'm doing in the live streams. And since I'm covering most of the planetary stuff in the live streams, I think in my videos, I'm going to do more compatibility and those kinds of things that people want to know about. And if you know your partner's sign, your husband or wife's sign, or the person you're dating, or even a close friend or a business partner, and you know each other's signs, I will be getting into all these different dynamics of the signs and the interplay with them. And I'll be doing a much more of that coming up in the spring and summer. So if there's something you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments. I'll definitely do my best to get to it. But just to give you a little recap, in my Pisces video that I just dropped this morning, I talked about the first compatibility with the first 6 signs. So that would be Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. And I talked about those 6 signs. So please watch that video. But generally speaking, I talked about Pisces being with Aries, which is the first sign. That can be a tough matchup because Aries is the first sign and Pisces is the last sign. And Pisces and Aries can often not meet in terms of temperament or sensitivity. Doesn't mean it can't work, but if Aries may not have the patience to deal with the changeability or moods of Pisces, and Pisces may find Aries insensitive at times. It depends on to what level, to again, maturity and involvement, but that's a tough matchup. And Taurus and Pisces, they're sextile, so that's pretty much a natural friendship. Again, it depends on the decans. If a Pisces is, let's say they're on the Aquarius cusp, it would depend on they might be better with a later Taurus that's closer to Gemini, with a little bit of Gemini influence, something like that. But Taurus and Pisces, you have to watch the video, but that can work. And then Gemini and Pisces are squared, as I mentioned. We got coming up on a quarter moon phase in a few days, because Pisces, the Sun in Pisces and Moon in Gemini are squared. So Pisces and Gemini, they could be fascinated and have a quick attraction, or they could be like, oof, I don't know what this person's going to do next. So changeability. Pisces and Cancer, that could be a nice matchup. Pisces and Cancer can be empathic with each other if they both respect each other's space and moods. And I know I keep saying moods, but Pisces and Cancer are all about the moodiness. Don't necessarily mean it's negative. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's all negative when I say mood or moodiness. Some people like that. I love moodiness in music. I like music that's moody and dark. I like happy music, but I don't always want to hear happy, superficial music. I like to hear music that has layers. And that's kind of how Pisces and Cancer are. They have layers, and they can learn a lot about each other. Pisces and then Leo, Pisces and Leo, that's an interesting combo because it's like two actors of the zodiac, and they're both dramatic in different ways. And Pisces is more dramatic in a quiet way. And obviously, Leo, as I said in my video, Leo likes to be the boss. Again, I'm not saying that to be negative. Leos can be bossy. Let's be real. I've never met a Leo person that I would objectively consider bossy to some extent. Nothing against Leos. It's just the way they use their energy. They like to rule the roost, and they like their way. Nothing wrong with that, but Pisces would have to be okay with that and have to maybe take a back seat. So there's a lot of adjustment needed there. And then Pisces and Virgo, that's a wild card. It's opposite polarity. They can both be kind of shy and helpful, and they are both caring in their own way. Virgo's more unemotional, but Virgos do care, and Virgos are devoted in a like kind of like, I'll take care of you, I'll change your Band-Aid sort of way. That's Virgo. Whereas Pisces is like, well, I'll take care of your heart. You take care of the Band-Aid, I'll take care of your heart. So Virgo and Pisces, it can work, but there's also sensitivity on both ends. They can both be offended easily, I think. So their sensibilities can be off. So you have to look at other things in the chart. So each week, I think I'll throw a little more in the live stream and the videos about compatibility, and we'll continue to talk about how the signs work with each other, because there's no easy way. A lot of the sun sign books from the 70s and 80s talked about very basic compatibility. And I know I'm doing that too, but there is nuances, and that takes in the decanates, your moon sign, your rising. There's all sorts of things. That's why it's good to consult an astrologer if you really want guidance. It doesn't mean the astrologer, like me or any other person, has the answers that you're looking for, but they're going to steer you in the right direction. I once did a chart read for a woman when I was in my 20s. I was at a party, and she said, I want to date this guy. And I was like in my mid-20s probably. She said, I want to date this guy. He's whatever. Can you look his chart up? So we did. We looked up the chart, opened the book, and I said, well, I'm not going to, whatever I say, I said, don't hold me to it. You have free will, and he has free will. You can make, if with enough effort, you can make things possible. But I looked at the chart quick of his. Of course, I never met him. I didn't know him. And I hardly knew this woman either. She said, can you just look it up? I said, sure. So I said, he might have a tendency to be like this in love. He might be like this. He might be immature. Of course, we were dealing with a certain age group, mid to late 20s. And she's like, okay. And then months later, she saw me and she said, oh my God, you were spot on. She said, I decided not to date him. And I said, I hope I didn't color it as just being negative. And she said, no, you didn't say it was negative, but you did say certain things to watch out for based on my sign and how I would react with it. So that's where the knowledge comes in. It just doesn't mean it's set in stone. It's how you use it. It's like Eric Clapton says, it's in the way that you use it. So that's my corny end. So thank you so much. Astroscoop live stream, episode number 11, March 9th, 2024. Finishing up the Pisces-3 period next week. Happy birthday, Pisces people. Again, you only have about 10 days, 10 days left. If you're celebrating birthday, you're a Pisces. And then we're going to be talking about Pisces, Aries, cusp people. Really fun. So I hope all of you have a great weekend and enjoy the last week of winter. And until the next one, stay safe and be yourself.